I picked up the phone and could sense the despondency of the caller. At 21 years old, I was interning at the counseling center of a prominent Christian ministry by taking free counseling calls from around the nation. The pastor on the line begged to remain anonymous and said he had nowhere else to turn. In utter despair, he confessed that he was having an affair and was ready to end his life. He felt trapped and uncertain about how he had landed in this tangled mess. When I started my internship, I had the false idea that leaders, especially those who loved Jesus, did not struggle like others. The saddest part was that his call was one of many similar ones I would take over those months. What I unpacked that day with this pastor was the beginning of a lifetime of work with Jeff to help leaders bring integrity to the most hidden parts of their stories. Recent years have seen more examples of the fallout from individuals failing to live and lead with integrity. Is integrity real? Is it important? Integrity is highly valued, but rarely lived out. Can it even be achieved? If so, is there anyone actually living and leading with integrity who can model the way? Unfortunately, the answers to these questions today might be different than we think. In fact, integrity is not about managing all the hats you wear, mastering a set of tools, or somehow achieving enlightened perfection. Integrity is a commitment to shrinking the gap between the values you preach and live. For leaders, integrity is a process of allowing ourselves and others to be human. Rather than hiding behind the masks of achievement, influence, and status, we engage in the process of learning to live and lead with greater congruence and grace. A leader is anyone who has a following, and how you lead matters. If you have children, you are a leader. If you run a Fortune 500 company, you are a leader. Leaders come in all shapes and sizes, but they have some commonalities that are rarely discussed among leaders at the top of organizations. This book is for high-capacity leaders, as well as those healing from leaders who have lacked integrity, those working with leaders, coaches, and counselors, and, of course, emerging leaders. Sometimes a leader is the charismatic, type A, driven, goal-oriented achiever who commits years to building things and making things happen. These leaders are the movers, the shakers, and often the ones others in the room look to. These are pioneer types who find themselves further up the ladder every time they turn around. Other leaders may have never wanted leadership, but find themselves being handed responsibility they didn't bargain for and fumbling to steward their influence. They may be quiet and reserved leaders who provide clear structure and protocols, but lack warmth. Sometimes leaders are selected simply because of their skills, education, or flash, and are placed on a pedestal of leadership without actually being ready for the role. For example, Saul of the Old Testament was chosen to be Israel's first king based primarily on his looks and stature. His selfish ambitions and jealousy eventually overtook his leadership, creating a ripple effect of consequences. See 1 Samuel 9-10. Though leadership roles are filled with a variety of personalities, the focus of this book is not how to be a leader, but rather what we do with the influence we are given and how to become leaders of integrity along the way.
Imagine leadership in our lives taking on a new definition as we lead from who we are, rather than from our agendas, accomplishments, or the image we work to preserve. Imagine leadership where we allow ourselves to be seen, known, and even loved. Then imagine offering the same authentic experience to those we directly influence in our homes, our organizations, and our communities. Wholehearted leaders bring all of who they are, mind, body, soul, and relationships, before God and others to live free from hiding and mature in humility and honesty. This is a different kind of leadership book, not one with easy 5-step plans, magic, or fluff. Instead, this book calls us into the deep end of the pool to discover how to mature into healthy leaders and sustain integrity over the long haul. We will unpack integrity. What does it mean? How is it obtained? And how is it lived out in practical ways so we can all experience more leaders who finish their race well? A leader with integrity is not perfect by any means. Rather, leaders with integrity know who they are and understand their own stories, wiring, and limitations. These leaders can receive feedback, see themselves as part of the greater work of their teams, and remain grounded in grace-filled relationships with those outside the groups they lead. This leader understands that integrity is not just a word, but a way of being.